I've been reviewing a lot of chess in media, and one of you guys has suggested that I should look at some manga, which I absolutely adore. So today we're gonna be looking at Blitz. Apparently this was a collaborative effort with Garry Kasparov. For those of you who don't know, Kasparov was the 13th world chess champion, and personally he's my #1 candidate to be the GOAT of chess. However, in the popular zeitgeist he's probably most well known for losing against the computer. Let's get started. The anime starts with an explanation of what chess is, and a very confusing quote: for competition, chess is considered as a representative of mind. I don't think the translation was the best, but it's workable, it's fine. And we see this amazing shot of our protagonist sandwiched between Kasparov and no idea who that is. I do love how the nose perfectly slots into the corner of the piece here. And we start with this really awesome shot of Garry Kasparov playing against the computer. Now, Kasparov was most well known for being defeated by a computer, but in his own words,
I played 2 matches. Nobody remembers that I won the first match.
he's still salty about it all these years later. It's fantastic. But that computer by IBM was called Deep Blue. This one is apparently called Kaiju 96. So apparently Kasparov has a very tight match against the computer, and the computer shuts itself down completely. Garry Kasparov is therefore declared as the winner. Then the reporters are harassing him.
I haven't won yet, but it hasn't either.
And we also see the first board position. Now this board position comes from a very well-known game. Soldier! 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 What? Where am I? No time to explain. Take this. Oh, that hurts. Well, what is this even supposed to be? Some dumb puzzle trainer? Dumb puzzle trainer? Oh, that's a big
Get
hand.
here, you insolent swine!
Oh no.
Chess Instinct is the free training app for Android. It analyzes a player's puzzle history to identify tactical strengths and weaknesses, just like yourself. It creates a personalized training set inspired by the woodpecker method. It helps players repeat important decisions and improve pattern recognition. Is that clear? It also includes Puzzle Rush, Survival, and Time Trial modes. You can download it on Google Play with a free version and an optional Pro one. Is that clear?
Anyway, links in the description. So yeah, that board position is pretty famous. And that's on the second match between Deep Blue versus Garry Kasparov. Kasparov actually played with the black pieces. But for this manga, they've switched it around, because Kasparov is playing with the white pieces. Now, the bad thing about that is that now it actually doesn't make much sense. And we'll see why. So keep in mind, in the manga, Kasparov has the white pieces, but in real life, Kasparov has the black pieces. So the game starts with e4, c6. This is the Caro-Kann defense. There are a couple ways you can treat the Caro-Kann. Knight c3 over here is the classical variation. We're not committing anything with this pawn yet. For example, in the advanced variation, usually this bishop will come out to the f5 square. But here, that of course isn't possible. Any waiting move is not too good for black. g6 is somewhat playable, but like for example e6, now you're just blocking out your bishop. So here, usually black will clarify the central position. And at about this point, the manga doesn't make much sense anymore. Because if we here accept that Kasparov is playing with the white pieces, instead of with the black pieces as happened in the real game, the next move doesn't make much sense. So if you ask the computer, it will always suggest knight f6 or bishop f5. But here the third line of the computer, knight d7, is called a carpal variation. A computer would never voluntarily play like this and block out its own light square bishop. It's a slightly suboptimal move. But the reason why Kasparov played it here is because if you follow the main line with knight to g5, this includes a piece sacrifice. Namely, after knight f6, bishop d3, pawn e6, knight f3. Now here the main line suggests just develop this bishop. However, Kasparov for this game was like,
The computer won't find the refutation to pawn to h6.
which is an inaccuracy. The only way that white can prove its advantage is with the piece sacrifice knight takes e6. And what Kasparov was banking on is that the computer wouldn't do this. Because unlike nowadays, computers back then were super materialistic. realistic, and they wouldn't go for a piece sacrifice that's speculative and might only bear fruit like 10 moves down the line. And then to the shock of the world, the computer played the move knight takes e6, which is correct. However, a long time after, it was actually discovered that the computer didn't solve that position. But what actually happened is that they programmed in an opening book, which is just a database of all the possible chess openings, and that position was in it. So his strategy was completely sound. It's just, he just got very unlucky, I suppose. The real game continued here with queen to e7. This piece can't be accepted because bishop g6, king e7, and this idiot is just stuck in the center now. Now, you don't have an immediate checkmate or anything, but what you do have is a lot of pressure against black's position. Queen e7 was played. However, after the move short castles, we can't take with the queen because here the move rook e1 just picks up material. So instead, we end up taking here. Now bishop g6 check gets played and king to d8. Now, if we look at the board position we've reached over here, and we compare that to the board we see over here, we'll quickly notice it's essentially the same thing, except one notable difference. Can you spot it? Again, here we have the board in the manga, and here we have the board position in the real game. The board in the manga does not have a light square bishop, but the board in the actual game does. So I guess they accidentally just removed this piece from the board. The game continued with bishop f4. Kasparov here played the move b5. The computer responded with a4. Bishop b7. Black isn't really concerned about this capture, it would just open up this piece. They are really struggling to complete development and connect the rooks. Rook e1, knight d5, bishop back to g3. And this is something I need you to understand about this sort of attack in chess. You still, even if you're down a full piece, have to be patient. King c8. Targets the pawn over here. Bishop c6 tries to defend. Here it comes with a very sexy move. So there's a pin on the e file, meaning this pawn can't move. So attack. Here Kasparov essentially threw in the towel with the move pawn takes bishop, which gives up the queen, right? So black resigned in 19 moves. Then the story picks back up in the international school of Shibuya, where we see this girl studying inside of the chess club. I instantly recognize this position. Again, one of the most famous games in chess history. Let's replay a famous game. The game of Kasparov versus Topalov of 1999. And that was actually Kasparov's immortal game. Now, the term immortal game originally comes from a game played by Adolf Anderson, but colloquially ever since it's been used to just describe just the greatest game of a chess player. You will sometimes hear people say Magnus Carlsen's immortal game or Garry Kasparov's immortal game. Kasparov versus Topalov 1999 was Kasparov's immortal game. So in this game Kasparov had the white pieces and Topalov had the black pieces, and it was the sort of Perk modern defense. And Kasparov set up it with this structure. I think this is how Daniel Naroditsky recommends you play it, and it's very fun because it lends itself very often to an opposite side castling situation. But first we trade off the bishops here. Now the king can't castle, because better than having a pawn storm on the king side is of course to keep the king from castling to begin with. So in this game what actually ends up happening is that black starts preparing queenside castle themselves. But because they've pushed these pawns and the center isn't completely locked yet, this doesn't mean that the king is safe at all. And Kasparov is well known to be one of the great attacking players, so he really utilizes this fact. He puts all his pieces on aggressive squares. I'm going through this game a bit quickly. It deserves way more time and attention spent on it. I unfortunately don't have the time left in this video. And the computer nowadays demystifies this a little bit. Kasparov played rook d4. I want you to think about if you were playing this game. What kind of proof would you need before you're like, yep, I can play this? Because I find it such a ballsy decision to just sack your rook for a pawn. And then you sack another rook. This one can't be taken, not because of the fork, that square is covered, but because of the check. And I believe the mate goes something like this. I analyzed this game a long time ago. So the king is kind of forced to walk upwards, and I mean, this is where the compensation lies. Come on, Harmony. It's time to learn from the greatest players. The next move of Kasparov, it will be the rook! Okay, sorry, I had to do that at least once. I'm a chess YouTuber. But yeah, see what she's doing? She's guessing the move. That is one of the best ways that you can learn from Grandmaster games. Because if you are going through a GM game and you're reading the annotations and you're just kind of trying to figure it out for yourself, that requires a lot of skill on your part. If you're rated like 1500 ELO, you can't do that yet. And I don't mean that in a mean way. It's just like these GMs are so unbelievably good. Like, if you're 1500, it doesn't add much, does it? But what you can do is you just, okay, play through the opening first. first, do it without an engine, and do it without being able to see the next move, and then figure it out. If I was white here, what would I play? For example, right, I could castle, maybe I could touch these pawns, but I don't really know what h4 does. And then at the end, let's say you come up with the move, you say, I'm going castle, and you're like, no. Oh, Kasparov here played a3, probably to stop this. So what happens if I allow this? Well, now my knight has to move, and I see the problem. Now it has to go to b1, while if I don't know, do some other move, now the knight can at least go to the center. If you're like unsure, I think my move was better than Kasparov's. You can check. Long castles, b4, knight b1. Not as good as a3. Darn it, Kasparov was correct. See how you learn from this? And that's what Harmony is doing here. It's just a very effective way of learning from Grandmaster games. Anyway, then we cut to the protagonist, who is not paying attention to school. By the way, what is this, right? Tom is not there, definitely. Also, why does the teacher look younger than the students? He looks like a preschooler. I don't know. So, the protagonist, Tom, has a little bit of a thing for Harmony. What are you looking at? I must nourish my brain with information. I don't know. Like, what are you? He has a thing for her. Then the nerd is like, you have nothing to do with Harmony. Your bad influence will make her a worse chess player. And it's like, yes, a very sensible thing to say. Then the main character spontaneously combusts. But in the next frame, he's fine. I think that's a continuity error. Anyway, the protagonist gets explained to him that because Laurent is a chess player, there's no way to get close to her, because she's essentially signed up to being a virgin for life. So then Tom is set on his quest to learn chess to impress this girl. So he wants to join the chess club. I want to ask you something about chess. But because he's a trouble student, before they let him in, they decide to give him a test. Tom has to beat Laurent over here within 2 months, otherwise he won't be allowed to join the club. And then the manga ends. And he is set on this quest to beat Laurent. So that will be all for me today. Again, thank you guys for all the amazing suggestions in the comments. I am deeply saddened that I cannot react to all of them. But most videos in this series have been suggested by people. So again, thank you very much. If you could do me a favor, I would appreciate that if YouTube allows you to hype this video. I've noticed that it does a lot better when you do. And if not, that's completely fine as well. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.